Recently, I've joined the board of the Easton Economic Development Corporation.
Oh, is that right?
Right, and in part because I'm very interested in the Port Street development. So I think Port Street and the hospital are two areas that really need some help. Port Street originally was called Landing Road, and it was the Route 50 of its day. I mean, all the traffic, all the goods and services came and went through the water. There weren't good roads to get to anywhere else. So it was villages. It was a village continuous down the street. It's hard to imagine now. Right into the 20th century, a lot of that was where people lived and worked nearby. And where I am at, where Port Street comes into Washington, that was all commercial in there. Yeah, with sort of live above the shop, but some of them were cabinet makers. And think of it as the big route was you got off your boat, you came up Landing Road or Port Street, and then you went. If you're going to the courthouse, that's how you got to the courthouse. So that was pretty, continuously developed. But one of the things when you talk about the future of downtown is we could use more residents and more residents who could work here. Like one of the things talking to Sam Shogi is that most of the non-professional workers in Easton come from somewhere else. They drive in every day from Caroline County or some other local area. I was very involved with Historic Easton when we got a study done, which included some suggestions for development downtown. That hasn't, nobody said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Let's, go ahead with it." And we, do have a lot of different owners because we have been developed over time. I think we're very lucky that we didn't have happen to Easton what happened to, say, Southwest Washington, where they said, "Well, poor people live here. The problem is the houses." So let's knock down the historic houses. We have some wonderful buildings here. We have great resources. Yeah. And we have things that have started to help, like the Tidewater. I think the thing that's a big unknown to me is what's going to happen with the hospital if they move out, say 4 or 5 years. If it would happen that quickly, I don't know. But it's 15 acres of property that's adjacent to downtown and adjacent to single-family homes. So, what's the best use of that? Keep in mind that the structure of a building is 20% of the cost. It's not the biggest part. People say, "Oh yeah, well we'll just move in there and so forth." But first we got to rip out all sorts of electrical things and plumbing things and so forth. So, say one of the suggestions has been a convention hotel. Well, obviously the patient room size isn't big enough to be a hotel room size. So the structure's there. We can use it. I understand that there's parts of the hospital that are older and so bad condition that are not even used anymore. But yes, it's there. I think it just again has to be looked at. Well, what really makes sense for this as a site? Do we really want another standalone building with parking around it? I mean, I don't think that's really the Easton model.
Would it be better just to tear it down and start with something else?
Well, it depends what the something else is, but sometimes that's ends up being cheaper. It could be, the things that the structure could be adapted to a hotel, some housing. I think there's probably need for more, sort of luxury senior housing. I don't know if a friend of mine that is an architect, but his whole career is developing senior housing, and he says, "Well, Ward, there's 3 phases. You're in your 70s, and that's the go-go phase, and then you get in your 80s, and that's the slow-go phase, and then get in the 90s and that's the no-go. And so, you know, a lot of these apartment complexes, you know, move from, you know, independent living through assisted living through nursing home. And that's something that we don't really have in a large scale. We have William Hill, which is a great facility, but I suspect with our aging baby boomers, which I'm on the leading edge of, that there's going to be more demand for that kind of thing. So that's certainly a possibility that the size and scale of that building would be appropriate for.